Hey everybody, this is Mr. W. Our topic today is greatest common factor, or GCF. It's important that you watch the video previous to this on factoring. You'll need to know how to do factoring before you're able to do greatest common factor. So I won't be teaching factoring today. By the end of this video, you will be able to find the greatest common factor for 2 or 3 whole numbers not greater than 50. Let's get started. Find the greatest common factor of 8, 12, and 20. So 8, 12, 20. Factors of 8 would be 1 times 8. We usually list them like that. And 2 times 4. Factors of 12 would be 1 times 12, 2 times 6, and 3 times 4, and we usually list them in order from left to right in order of their value. Factors of 20, I'm going to leave a little bit more space just in case. 1 and 20, then 2 times 10, and 4 and 5. So we list our factors. Now our common factors would be, I'm seeing 1 and 2 and 4. 8 is not a common factor, and 6, 12 are not common factors, nor is 5, 10, or 20. So our greatest common factor for the whole numbers 8, 12, and 20, the answer to this would be 4. Greatest common factor. Greatest, of course, means biggest. Common means the same. You may hear the expression sometimes that people will say, well, I have a lot in common, meaning that there's a lot of things that people have the same in their lives. And factor, we remember our numbers that we multiply. For example, 3 times 4 equals 12. 3 and 4 are called factors. Steps are pretty easy to find the greatest common factor. You need to write all the factors, and again, that's from a previous lesson on factoring that you should watch that video if you haven't watched it already, and then simply find and circle the greatest common factor. Let's start with some nice easy ones. 4 and 6, we're going to find the greatest common factor for 4 and 6. So 4 and 6. For 4, it would be 1 times 4, but we could also go 2 times 2. I'm only going to list the 2 once. So my factors for 4 are 1, 2, and 4. Factors for 6 would be 1 times 6, but you could also multiply 2 times 3. So the factors for 6 are 1, 2, 3, and 6. I can see that I have common factors of 1 and 2. The 4, the 3, and the 6 are not common. I would have to see them on both lists. So the greatest common factor would be 2. So my answer would be 2 for my greatest common factor for 4 and 6. Another easy one. 5 and 10. And I wrote a note up here to remember that all numbers always have 1 as a factor. So for example, 1 times 5 would equal 5, and there's no other factors for 5. For 10, it would be 1 and 10. But because 10 is an even number, I wrote a note here for even numbers. Even numbers always have 2. And in this case, it would be 2 times 5. I can see that 1 and 5 are common, but the greatest common factor would be 5. Find the greatest common factor. These are medium, a little bit more work maybe. 12 and 15. Find my factors for 12. I know it's always going to be 1 for any whole number. 12 is even, so that would be 2 and 6, because 2 times 6 is 12. And also 3 and 4. So my factors of 12 are 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12. Now factors of 15, 1 and 15. 15 is an odd number, so it's not going to be a 2, but 3 and 5. And that would be all the factors for 15, 1, 3, 5, and 15. Our common factors would be 1 and 3, and none of these here are common, so our greatest common factor for 12 and 15 would be 3. 18 and 24. For 18, it would be 1 times 18. 18 is an even number, so there would definitely be a factor of 2, and that would be 2 times 9. And 3 times 6 is also equal to 18. So our factors for 18 are 1, 2, 3, 6, 9, and 18. For 24, 1 and 24. 24 is an even number, so that would be 2, and 2 times 12 equals 24. 3 times 8 is also equal to 24, and 4 and 6. So a lot of factors for 24, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 12, and 24. I notice that we have some common factors, 1, 2, 3. I'm seeing also 6, but I don't see 9 or 18 here, and I don't see 4 or any of these up here. So our greatest common factor for 18 and 24 would be 6. I guess I should have wrote a note for maybe a little bit harder, right? I don't know if that's a little bit of a hard face here. Notice that we have 3 this time, 5, 20, and 30. I wrote a note here, remember your 5 rule, and I'll explain that in a second. So for 5, it's 1, 5. For 20, it's going to be 1 and 20. 20 is even, so it's 2, and 2 times 10. Well, not 3, but 4, and 4 times 5. And the 5 will remember that any number that ends with a 5 or a 0 will always have a factor of 5. So I know already that 30 will also have a factor of 5, but we need to find out if that's our greatest common factor. For 30, our factors are 1 and 30. 30 is an even number. It's going to be 2. And I just showed the math up here is that we can't really find for 2, we're not going to find 30 on this chart, so we would have to divide. So I just did it here ahead of time. 30 divided by 2 is 15. And then 3, 10. And also we said that because it ends in a 0, it has to have a factor of 5, and that would be 5 times 6. So we've listed all of the factors for 5, 20, and 30. Our common factors I see are 1 and 5. So this actually ended up pretty easy. Our greatest common factor would be 5. So the greatest common factor for 5, 20, and 30 would be 5. 28, 35, and 42. 28 would be 1, 28. That's an even number, so it would be 2, and 28 divided by 2 would be 14. For 3, no, 3 would not fit, but 4 times 7 would be factors of 28. Factors of 35 would be 1, 35. 35 is an odd number, so it can't have a factor of 2. It does not have a factor of 3 because 3 plus 5 is 8, and that's not divisible by 3. 4 does not work, but 5, it ends in a 5, and we said earlier that the 5 rule would apply here. So 5 times 7. So that would be all of your factors for 35, 1, 5, 7, and 35. For 42, it would be 1 and 42. 42 is an even number, so we definitely have 2. I showed that over here. 42 divided by 2 would be 21. 4 plus 2 is 6, and 6 is divisible by 3, so we definitely have 3. And 42, if you divided 42 by 3, you would get 14. I'm not going to show that right now for time's sake. 4, let's see, I don't think 4 fits in there. No, I'm just going to do a real quick check on my multiplication chart. I don't see anything for 4, right? 5 would not work, but 6. So 6 times 7 would equal 42. So here we have a lot of factors for 42. Okay, let's find our common factors. 1 is common. This time 2 will not be common. 4, no. 7, oh, this is interesting. I see 7, 7, and I see a 7 here. I see 14. I also see 14 down here, but I do not see 14 here, so I cannot use 14, and I do not see 28. So our greatest common factor for the three numbers 28, 35, and 42 would be 7. Let's do one more. So it's kind of a test type problem that you may see something like this. What is the greatest common factor for 12, 24, and 36? One, 12, 2, 6, 3, and 4. Well, right here from 12 alone, I do not see 18. Remember, greatest common factor would have to be a factor for all of these numbers. So I can eliminate answers C and D. The 6 and the 12 are still possible. Let's look at the 24. We have 1, 24, 2, 12, 3 times 8, and finally 4 times 6. I'm seeing both the 6 and the 12, so we're going to have to go to our third number, 36. 36 is an even number, so 2, and if you were to divide that by 2, you would get 18. 3 and 12, and 4 times 9 also equals 36. My common factors I see are 1, I'm seeing 2, I'm seeing a lot here, wow, 3, I see 4, I don't see 6, only one left I can check is 12, 12, well here we go. So the greatest common factor that's presented on this list would be B12. Even though there is a 6, it is not the greatest common factor. 12 would be greater than 6. All right, so in quick review, our lesson today was on greatest common factor. Make sure that you already understand about factoring and how to find that. And we said that our steps for finding the greatest common factor are pretty easy. We just list the factors for each of the numbers that were given, and then find your common factors and just circle the greatest common factor. Okay, thanks everybody. We'll see you next time.